What is shaping? Shaping is achieving a behavior by clicking for approximations to the final outcome. And what this means is that we find the steps to get to where we want the dog to be, such as sitting in a box, stepping into the box, turning around in the box, lowering their butt to a sit, and finally sitting in the box. This is shaping a dog into a box. So what does it take to get a bow? The head must go down, the shoulders and front legs must extend and lower, and the back end must remain up. Let's see Malcolm working on shaping a bow. I've asked Malcolm to figure out what I'm clicking for. He thinks I might be clicking for touching the stool, so he offers that. Then he sits and his chin dips and I click. That is the beginning of getting a bow. He thinks about that, dips his chin, and I click. He's starting to understand. When he went for the treat, I clicked again, and he went, "Oh," and offered a harder dip with his foot out front. Now, Malcolm's already learned a bow, but he's learning how to bow while I'm standing. As you see, each time he's dipping his chin and putting his leg out, I'm getting a little closer with that click to the final bow. And there it is. It's a beautiful bow. And there it is. Now this went very quickly because Malcolm had worked on it for a week already. And he had already learned it while I was sitting. But what if I wanted them to touch that spot right there on the floor where the post-it note has been taped? Let's find out how that works. Emma's going to shape to touching that spot on the floor. If you notice, she's giving me bows because that's the last thing we shaped. Head dips, bows. I'm telling her that's all very good, but that's not what I'm asking. And then she turns and sees the spot, and I clicked. And she goes, "Huh." And I wait for her to either move toward or look at the spot, and I click. And right now I don't care if she does what I'm asking for, which is touching it with her foot. I care that she notices that the spot that I'm looking at exists. Now, because I was distracted, I missed a clickable spot there where she stepped back towards it with one foot. But that's okay. Dogs are very versatile, and if you miss a spot once in a while, they still recover from it and figure out what you're asking of them. Every time she looks or touches that spot with her nose right now, she's getting clicked. My final goal is for her to touch it with her foot. But right now, I just need her to know that that spot is what is clickable, and have her figure out what I'm asking of her. I'm trying to give her space to think, and yes, this time she put her foot by it and then looked at me, and I told her that was correct by clicking, and I continue to reward any interaction with that spot, and she is now putting her foot on the spot, and each time I give her a bigger reward to say that was exactly what I was asking. This time I click because her back foot touched it, and eventually I'm going to be clicking for back feet too. Very good. She checked out the spot and put her foot on it. So Emma has the idea of what I'm asking. Let's watch Malcolm learn the same thing. I've put the spot there, and Malcolm turns his head just slightly. He hasn't noticed the spot really, but what he's doing is he's being clicked for turning his head in the right direction. He's offering other behaviors, but he keeps looking in that direction because that paid the last time, and Malcolm's getting pretty savvy. Now that was an accidental look, but that still got him a click. Malcolm's figuring out that he can do things to get me to click. So he's more willing to make movement and make an effort to get me to click. And right now, he's distracted by Max, but he keeps turning in the right direction. So I'm clicking for that. In a little bit, he's going to ignore the cat when she runs through, and he's going to be rewarded for that too. So sometimes it can be a little bit of an exciting place here, training. See, he ignored the cat. So he turned his head, got a click. Now he's going to offer things he knows. And I'm telling Max to go lay down because I can hear him breathing off to the side. Malcolm's gotten stuck, so I need to do something to unstick him. And that happens sometimes with shaping. They get stuck. And I waited for his head to turn because he kind of gets really good about looking around. And clicked him. And got him up. And he looked at the spot, or at least in the right direction. And he's starting to get the idea, up, let's try a bow, that used to work. And he gets lots of clicks because he's close to that spot, and he finally just realized it exists. And there, real quick glance, was that really all I was asking was for him to check that spot? And there he goes. He's figured out what we're working on. And he's going to start really interacting with that spot. There you go. So now I'm clicking for closer to what I want, which is him to be more interactive with that spot. There we go. And let's try some things we already know. And click for turning his head towards the spot. And looked at the spot. And each time, there, touched it. He's getting closer. And foot on the spot. Foot on... Whoop. Nope, we didn't make the foot, but we did try biting it. And there he is. So Malcolm has figured out it has more to do with feet than mouth, but he's there and he's figured it out and he's doing great. So one last case study, it's Max. He turns his head at the spot and sees it. Now Max is a lot more used to shaping. And right now I'm clicking any head movement towards that spot because he's never shaped to a post-it note on the floor. And he gets a little stuck, so I unstick him. And I'm clicking for any foot movement with Max to get him to start moving his feet, because otherwise Max gets stuck if I don't get his feet moving. There we go. Malcolm's feet never seem to be glued to the floor. Max's can get glued really easily. And he's stepping on that spot accidentally, so he's getting clicked for it, but he's also getting clicked for experimenting with direction. If you watch Max, he is actually testing which direction does he need to move to get clicked. You can see him practically dancing around the spot trying to figure out what it is that he's being clicked for. It is really kind of a magical moment when Max gets in the zone and starts to figure out what he's being clicked for. Now I can work Max on a shaping exercise longer than Emma and Malcolm because Max is more experienced. And Max is having a lot of fun. He hasn't figured out yet there's a post-it note on the floor. All he knows it has something to do with that area, and it has to do with getting his feet in the right spot. There was an experiment checking his hip. There's some more movement towards the spot. See that dancing? That's Max really experimenting to figure out where exactly he's supposed to be. He's really thinking this through and he's really enjoying himself. I love watching this process with him. He's almost there, and then I got up and I turned off the alarm. So we come back and return to right where we were. Max didn't lose a beat. And check him out. He's just dancing and having a good time. And he gets, every time his foot touches, he gets a click. And now I'm doing rapid clicks for his foot being on that spot. And he's starting to look. There's something about that spot. Maybe he should see what it is. And I held the click until he did that. There we go. Because now I want him to pay attention to the fact there's a post-it note there. We got enough that he knows it's right in that area. But now I want him to be aware. There, we spotted it. Now it has something to do with that post-it note. His foot touched it. He can feel that difference in texture. He looks at it and he puts his foot on it. Perfect. So he's figuring it out. And if you watch, he's going to experiment and make sure that that's what I want, is that I want him to put his foot on it. Foot on it. He looks at me. perfect. Foot on it. He looks at me, perfect. Now his target isn't perfect, but that's okay. This was just for demonstration purposes. Lots of looking and touching with his foot. So he did some experimenting with his head there to see what I was asking. And foot. There we go. Now he's getting a lot more consistent with his foot. There we go. Scraped on it, but I want him to... That's it. I wanted him to go one step further and just put his foot on it. And foot on it. There, you see it? We shaped from figuring out where the spot was to what I wanted him to do with it. And now he's becoming consistent. Now Max has more experience than Emma and Malcolm with this type of training. And so he solved the problem very quickly. But as you can see, once they've solved the problem, they start offering that behavior over and over again, because that's what I've defined for him by going by small bits and pieces. That's shaping. Thank you. In conclusion, shaping is taking the big picture, the big movements, and defining them little by little to the smaller movements that becomes the final behavior. Make sure you have a clear picture of what you want and how to get there, what all the different parts are. And you'll have a lot of fun with your dog, and your dog will really enjoy doing this type of behavior. Have fun. Enjoy shaping.